Hey man, do you want louder masters? Do you want your mixes to sound fuller? Do you want to get there without introducing all of the artifacts from compression and limiting? Well, Wavy got something for you, man. What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Wavy Wayne from WavyProAudio.com. And MIXNIK is coming up, man. We got some heavy hitters in the building like Schwabe, the creator of Gold Clip that we're gonna talk about today. He'll be there to break down this plugin and some new secrets that he didn't even tell y'all about. So today we're gonna be talking about how I use Gold Clip from Schwabe Digital to make my mixes louder and fuller and do all of that without introducing a bunch of artifacts from over limiting and compression on the mix bus. So let's just jump into this mix and I'll show you what I'm doing. And if you stick around, I might even give you a look at my whole mastering chain and what my thought process is when mastering a record. Let's jump into it. All right, so let's just listen to this record so far. If we look at the mix bus, all of my tracks are running through here. So this is a process that I like to do. Whenever I'm mixing, I ultimately route everything ends up coming to a stereo mix bus where I do my processing. But controlling the level going into that mix bus, I have a master fader. This will allow me to push or pull back levels as they hit my mix bus processing. Really simple, just add that master fader and you see it's controlling that mix bus here. And again, I'm just using that in this mix. You can see I'm just doing a little bit of automation, right, to maybe add a half a dB all the way up to a dB in some instances of loudness from section to section changes. That's a tip that I picked up from Schwabe a couple months back, man, and I've been using it ever since. It just really helps to move the dynamics of the whole song along as the record is playing. Now, on my mix bus here, before I even get to Gold Clip, you can just see I'm just starting off with a little bit of analog warming, a little tone here. I'll play a part of this hook at the end of the record so we can hear it. And you can just see what the black box from HG2 is doing. The HG2 black box from Analog Design site. So here's the mix without that. All right. Adding a little bit of that black box is going to introduce a little bit more punchiness and a little airiness just to kind of open the mix up a little bit. I like how that feels, and I often will put this on as the very first thing in kind of emulating what a console would do. All right. Next, after that, I like to kind of do some type of big tonal shaping with the EQ. So I went right behind that with my Pultec EQ. Another tip that I picked up along the way. I think Ken Lewis got me into actually using this particular plugin on my mix bus. So let's listen to what I'm doing here. Let's do before and after. Right, so get a little bit of warmer, take off some of that edge. Right? All right, and then from there is when I kind of like to go into my Gold Clip. So I'm just doing like a little tonal shaping, and then we're gonna start working on the loudness of this mix, man. So Gold Clip is very interesting. So let's just explore a little bit about clipping in general. Ultimately, what clipping does, or soft clipping, this is going to reduce the peaks in our signal. So like when we have like kicks and 808s, they have really high peaks. Often those will be the highest peaks in the mix. And by just kind of truncating just the peaks of those, we can get overall louder, fuller mixes and causing our compressors and limiters to do less work by doing that. Now, in this case, I often will use it to add loudness because they have like this gold knob that I'm gonna show y'all about here. In this gold knob, I can actually add some of that loudness and fullness without even clipping the peaks, because clipping those peaks will add some distortion, but it's on a sample base type of thing. So that distortion often we'll just perceive it as like, hey, that's the kick a little bit more punchy, or the 808 a little bit more punchy. But it is actually introducing some distortion. So you got to kind of be careful with that, depending on what you want from the desired outcome. Like, what do you want your final product to be? So just adding this in, I'm gonna show you exactly how I like to start. So when I open up the Gold clip, one of the first things I want to do is just change my clipper style to modern. It just feels better for me. You know, you have these different styles. You got hard, you got classic, and you got modern. So it's kind of like medium, soft, medium, and hard, right? So the modern, I think that's like in the middle, right? So it's kind of the best of both worlds between like the classic and the hard setting. That's fine for me. I don't change the gold and the box tone. That literally is just, hey, should this plug-in itself just add some sound? A lot of time when you use an analog gear, you run your signal through it. Just the fact that you running the signal through that piece of gear adds some type of tone, some type of characteristics. You can do that and experiment with it. Matter of fact, let's just see how it sounds before I change any of these other settings. Let's just see what the box tone will do to this mix.
Lipstick and eyelashes, bust down lace and sunglasses, blush on my cheeks, got my nails long, but I still love me when it all comes off.
Right, so some subtle characteristic changes, not anything too noticeable. If you feel like you need to add some different tonal characteristics, then go ahead and experiment that. We'll keep it flat for right now. First things that I'll do is actually bring the ceiling down to meet my peak, right? So they have these infinite peak hold meters to where it'll just basically stay right there, and it makes it really easy for me to just bring this ceiling down. Now, if I bring this ceiling down below the peaks, that's when actual clipping will start to happen. Let's listen to that real quick.
Lipstick and eyelashes, bust down lace and sunglasses.
Right, so we can see the little representation here of what's happening, and see that, hey, the ceiling is really brought down very low, and a lot of stuff is being clipped, and we can hear it.
Lipstick and eyelashes, bust down lace and sunglasses, blush on my cheeks.
So we can see how the tops of those peaks are just being cut off.
Love me when it all comes off. Lipstick and eyelashes,
I'm gonna bring that up to just make it a little more gentle,
me happy.
or just have no clipping at all if you want, right?
But when it all comes off, I'm still a beauty. Lipstick and eyelashes, bust down lace and sunglasses, blush on my cheeks.
Right, so you see we getting just barely a little bit of clipping, only just like the really small little tips of the transients are actually being clipped, and that's fine. That's going to be great for me. Like, I don't really want to do too much and add a lot of saturation to this mix. It's just not that type of song. Now, I really like to add some gold. Now, this gold is going to act sort of like a compressor, but without attack and release settings, to where it'll make the loud sounds make the loud sounds quieter and the softer sounds louder, right? Restricting the dynamics of the mix, but without the artifacts of using a compressor, right? So let's just listen to the gold as I add some in. And I'm gonna turn on Unity. This way we won't hear necessarily a volume change right now, but we'll just hear the effect of the gold algorithm being added in.
Lipstick and eyelashes, bust down lace and sunglasses, blush on my cheeks, got my nails long, but I still love me when it all comes off. Lipstick and eyelashes, a good contour makes me happy. Got these braids hanging down.
That's without it in bypass.
But when it all comes off, I'm still a
Let's hear it back in.
lipstick and eyelashes, bust down lace and sunglasses.
We got an overall fuller mix happening.
My cheeks got my nails long.
I'm gonna raise the ceiling.
Still love me when it all comes off. Lipstick and eyelashes, a good contour makes me happy. Got these braids hanging down to my booty, but when it all
Bypass again.
comes off, I'm still a beauty. Lipstick and eyelashes, bust down lace and sunglasses, blush on my cheeks. Got my
Right, so we
nails
getting more girth, more overall fullness from that mix, and it's subtle to hear, especially when we're not hearing the volume changes. Typically when you listening to compression, we're hearing that envelope change, the attack and release, that's really making our ears draw into that something is being compressed. Since this doesn't have attack and release, it's a little bit more subtle and hard to hear and perceive it as actually changing anything, but it is making that mix fuller and louder by really squeezing those dynamics in a natural kind of way. Now, the the Alchemy I like. This works like a tape machine. The more you turn up Alchemy, what it does is as the signal reaches the clip point, it'll actually start to reduce the high and mid frequencies to make it just sound smoother to us. Our ears naturally like to hear the top end frequencies kind of get rolled off as the signal gets louder, and that's what Alchemy is going to do for us. And it just reduces the artifacts of the clipping to make them a lot less noticeable. It's not keeping everything clean.
Lipstick and eyelashes, bust down lace and sunglasses, blushed on my cheeks, got my nails long.
Clean.
But I still love me when it all
Let's bypass.
lipstick and eyelashes, a good contour makes me happy.
We can hear it's a little harsh.
Braids hanging down to my booty.
Now it's clean.
But when it all comes off, I'm still a beauty. Lipstick
All right, and then I take it off Unity and let's hear what we got.
Lipstick and eyelashes, bust down lace and sunglasses, blushed on my cheeks, got my nails long. But I still love me when it all comes off. Lipstick and eyelashes,
Without it,
contour makes me happy. Got these braids hanging down to my booty. But when it all comes off, I'm still a beauty. Lipstick and eyelashes, bust down.
now you can even blend between the wet and dry here, but I like to keep this kind of fully wet right now because I'm doing like minimal processing. I'm getting the overall loudness up and it's sounding good to me from there. So that's pretty much how I would use Gold Clip, and then I would move on from there. This is going to allow my limiters, once I start pushing into the limiter, it's going to allow that limiter to do a lot less work. It's not going to be reacting to so many peaks, and it's already got a lot of fullness. So it's taking a lot of work away from other processors that I might need to do, and just doing it in a super clean and natural way with Gold Clip. Now, I told y'all that if you stick around, I'll show you some of my other mastering processes, and here we are. I ain't gonna lie to you, man. So I did these settings, but we changed some stuff with the Gold Clip, but let's see how things are still sounding. This is one of my favorite EQs for really kind of sculpting and getting out problem frequencies. This is the Brainworx BX mastering EQ. I basically, let's just listen before and after.
Eyelashes, bust down lace and sunglasses, blushed on my cheeks, got my
I like to use this to find any parts of resonance or frequencies that might be harsh, and I control those. I also like to use this mono maker knob right here, this mono maker parameter, to actually fold the low end frequencies into the center. It just makes them tighter, more punchy, more direct, and give a cleaner, tighter low end whenever you're doing that mono maker.
lipstick and eyelashes, bust down lace and sunglasses, blushed on my cheeks, got my nails long. But I still love me when it all comes off. Lipstick and eyelashes, a good
Another step in my mastering chain would be some multi-band compression, and I love to do this with the ML4000 from McDSP. Really simple, just knocking off a couple of dB. Primarily, it's probably going to be hitting the low end on this the hardest, as it was a 2-track, and it needs to be controlled a little bit more. I can't just go and turn that kick or bass down, so I'm just kind of hitting it with this limiter just to make sure it stays in pocket, and everything else is getting a lot more gentle compression happening. I follow that up with a Pro Q4. In here, it's important that I switch it over to linear phase mode. It's just going to give me the cleanest sounding from this EQ, especially on the master. I don't want to introduce any phasing if possible. And really, I'm just rolling off the super unnecessary low end frequencies and the high end frequencies. Again, by reducing stuff that we can't hear and is not important, this is going to help me to get a louder overall master, because now I'm reducing overall level by chopping off frequency. So even though we can't hear it, the limiter is still reacting to it. So anything under like 16 hertz in this mix and anything above 23 kilohertz, I'm just rolling it off. That way I get a tighter mix. Now, often I might adjust this depending on what it sounds like in the mix. And I think I'm just doing a little bit of spectral shaping here with the top shelf just to cut down any high-end artifacts.
lipstick and eyelashes, bust down lace and sunglasses,
from there, Ozone, right? Ozone 11. And I'm using a little bit of stabilizer just to kind of balance out the overall frequency spectrum here. And then I'm hitting it with the maximizer, right? So stabilizer. Warning. Sorry, should have warned you it was gonna get louder there.
Lipstick and eyelashes, bust down lace and sunglasses, blush on my cheeks, got my nails long, but I still love me when it all comes off. Lipstick and eyelashes, a good contour makes me happy. Got these braids hanging down.
Right, so again, just kind of taming some of the frequency spectrum whenever it gets a little bit out of line using the cut mode here. And then maximizer, this is where we are limiting.
Lipstick and eyelashes, bust down lace and sunglasses, blush on my cheeks, got my nails long, but I still love me when it all comes off. Lipstick and eyelashes,
I like the IRC4.
contour makes me happy. Got these braids hanging down to my booty, but when it all comes off, I'm still a beauty. Lipstick and eyelashes, bust down lace and sunglasses.
Right, so you see that that limiter is reacting pretty hard to that kick. I'm gonna actually go back to my ML4000 and compress the kick a little bit, I mean the low end a little bit.
Lipstick and eyelashes, bust down lace and sunglasses, blush on my cheeks, got my nails long, but I still love me when it all comes off. Lipstick and eyelashes, a good contour makes me happy. Got these braids hanging down to my booty, but when it all comes off, I'm still a beauty. Lipstick and eyelashes, bust down lace and
Right,
sunglasses.
so by doing that, that'll just help me to just really help the limiter to not have to react so hard.
Lipstick and eyelashes, bust down lace and sunglasses, blush on my cheeks, got my nails long, but I still love me when it all comes off.
And then from there, we just hit it to a little imager.
Makes me happy. Got these braids hanging down to my booty, but when it all comes off, I'm still a beauty. Lipstick and eyelashes, bust down lace and sunglasses, blush on my cheeks, got my nails long, but I still love me when it all comes.
Right? And then after that, since I am adding this imager after that limiter, right, just to kind of recover some of those peaks, right, and also add a little spreadiness. Shout out to Schwabe for showing me that trick, putting the limiter and then adding the imager after that. Then after that, I just got this other catch limiter where I'm just, hey, just in case anything goes over after I put that the spreader, the imager on there, this is just gonna make sure that nothing heads into clipping territory, and that's really how I do the mastering change for a lot of songs now.
Lipstick and eyelashes, bust down lace and sunglasses, blush on my cheeks, got my nails long, but I still love me when it all comes off.
If you want to learn more mixing and mastering techniques firsthand from the creators of plugins that you use every day and from the top mixing and mastering engineers in the world, MIXNIK is where you need to be. It's happening July 25th and 26th in Atlanta, Georgia. I'll leave all the details in the description below, but make sure you get those early bird tickets and pull up on me July 25th and 26th in ATL for MIXNIK 3, baby. I'll see you there.